Hello and welcome to the 611 Films podcast. I am Neil Mulkay and with me is
David Groves.
And we also have our first guest today.
Our good friend, actor buddy, Mr. Ryan Mulkay is on the line.
How you doing?
How's it going? And we go way back with Ryan because we we were actually all roommates at one time. So and we all came from the Virginia area. We all worked on movies together. All became roommates in LA, and
we all moved to Los Angeles the same year.
Yeah, the same time.
I think I came 3 weeks or so after you.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, we
kind of just to make sure that you moved in all the heavy stuff into the apartment. So
right. Yeah, of course.
By the time I got there, I just kind of had to. Yeah, no, we didn't have much at all.
But no, it's interesting too. We all came out when the recession was going on, all in 2008 in the summer when things were going to hell in a handbag, and now here we are again when things are a little worse.
I think we also had a writer's strike pretty soon afterwards.
Was it the writer's strike before, or was it the SAG strike?
I don't remember. There was some kind of thing that really didn't affect me or my career in any way at that point, but I knew it was happening.
I think the writer's strike happened in 07, 06, or 07, actually.
Maybe that was when we were planning and we said, hey, let's get out there now. Seems like things are ripe for the picking. Let's go to Los Angeles.
Let's just go. Hey, it's what better time to go than when things are falling apart financially in the world? Let's just dive in right then and there.
Why not?
Yeah, actually,
I think it was actually the writer's strike happened before that. And then SAG was striking when we were there, I think, because remember too, man, we were working on some web series and short films or things like that. And it was an easy time for actors to get their SAG card.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think that's how I got mine.
Right. It was like they were basically saying, hey, any ultra low budget project you're doing,
just put it online, fill out this paperwork, get one or maybe two, maybe I think it might have just been one person that's in the guild to be a part of this thing with you. So I just found somebody like that. I don't remember who it is now, forgive me, but it was a friend of mine, and we just got together and we shot something, we turned in the paperwork, and then they said, okay, you're part of the union, give us a bunch of money.
Yeah.
At the time that was well, it still is, but that was like a big step when you first get out here. There was a silver lining there that we got to take advantage of that, or I got to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Well, before we get into all that stuff in LA, we actually all met in Fairfax, Virginia. We all went to George Mason University. We met, I guess it was summer of 2004. So Neil and I were doing two different short films. Neil and I had actually just met, I guess, like 4 or 5 months prior. We were working at the student video lab, the Star Lab, as they called it. I don't know if it's still the Star Lab anymore, but yeah, I had just graduated. Neil had just done a stint in LA. So then I was sort of like, well, I need to do a real short film, like not something for classes or anything like that. So, and I think Neil, you had started writing something as well. So that's how
it was
ball got in motion.
Yeah, it was kind of a kismet thing. How you and I got together was, we were both doing the shorts, and we realized that it's better that we help each other out because we could get accomplished a lot more if we kind of tag team the projects. And I mean, it was stuff like I had connections into the theater, community at Mason, so I was able to get like a lot of I had an acting teacher that's how we met Ryan, was because I had an acting teacher, Mary Lecter, who was like, oh, I can get all these people that I know through the theater community at Mason. And then you had a camera, and then I knew somebody that could operate the camera. It was just kind of a back and forth. It was like, hey, why don't we just do it's your short, you direct it, and it's my short and I'll direct it, but we just do them together. And then it was weird how we both wanted to cast Ryan as our leads in our respective shorts. So it was kind of, like I said,
was it weird or was it? Yeah. I was like, yeah.
It's like not weird, but it's like that one of those happy accidents how it all kind of came together, and then we all became roommates, and it was just like
I thought it was probably against both of your better judgments, but I wasn't going to speak up at the time.
No, of course. I mean, I regret it till this day, but at the same time,
I don't think
like,
I had ever
it's
done
fun.
anything on camera at all. In fact, at that point.
Well, it was mine. I mean, we did Right Time first. I think
Right,
that was your
but I think
first.
that
He's
was
saying
must
he
have
was just theater, I guess. I didn't know that,
Yeah.
Ryan. Actually, I thought you
Yeah,
had done some
'cause I
shorts or
had-
something before.
No, because I didn't even go to college thinking I didn't even know that is what, that people did. I mean, I guess I knew it's what people did, but I didn't think it was like something that I would do until maybe only 2 or a few years before that with you guys. To be honest with you, I just don't.
So you think you were thinking you were just gonna be on stage, like
No.
thing?
No, that wasn't the intention was always to do both, but I mean, I think we did those. You caught me like right out of school, so I hadn't had the opportunity to do anything on camera yet, if that's right. What year was that?
2004.
We did 4. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
2004.
I was right out of school, so it was the first opportunity that anybody with the camera was like.
See, now I've known you forever, Ryan. I didn't even know that. I thought you were, you had done a bunch of stuff before.
No, I had done plays. I had done a bunch of plays, and I might have done extra work. I may have been an extra on television shows like The District or The Wire or things like that. But for a proper someone's giving me lines. No, I think you two were the first for sure.
So you were like our guinea pig. but
all in all, vice versa.
Yeah, well, that is true. That is true. But what I think is very cool about what we're doing here, and why we have you on is because we've had so much history and we've known you for so long, and you're still a great friend of ours, and we're still working together. I mean, you and Dave just shot a movie. We've mentioned it on the podcast before, SOCIOS and SOCIOS. I mean, you guys have worked on a bunch of stuff. Like, I've since left LA, but you guys have done a bunch of stuff in LA. And the fact that we know each other after all these years and we're here talking on a podcast, I mean, I just think that's really cool, just how
you left LA you're in another film market in this.
Oh, I mean, I had to go. Yeah, I had to do.
But like you currently being in Austin is.
I'm now back in it, but yeah, I mean, there was almost a decade where I was basically not doing anything. I mean, meanwhile, you guys are off doing, music videos and all kinds of stuff.
Who knows, man? All of our decades of not doing anything may be in front of us.
It's kind of.
You never know when that decade's going to pop up.
It's kind of wild, but I just always think it's cool because it's like you never forget, because I kind of never forgot like where I came from. And even though it was a decade of just not doing stuff, and then Dave is kind of chirping in my ear, hey, Neil, you need to, do this stuff again. And then here we are. And it's like, now we're talking about who knows what projects will be down the road, and we're going to be working together again. And it's just like a wild kind of thing, how life goes on. And, but 15 years, it's just, or whatever it has been, 16 years is just like in a blink of an eye. And it's like, holy crap,
Yeah, it's definitely gone a lot faster. I still feel to this day, I'm just like, yeah, it still feels like we just pulled into the garage. Neil and I drove out here to LA together. Like I said, back in I guess late June of 2008, we were kind of coming in right at 4th of July. And it still kind of feels like, yeah, it was just yesterday. But then it feels like a lot longer too, because I've done music videos, I've done promotions, I've done a couple different teaser trailers with Ryan, done a lot of stuff. But yeah, a couple years ago, that was when I was like, all right, it's time to do a feature film. It's time to get back on doing.
No, I have a question about that. I'm going to kick off this little kind of topic that you guys can talk about. But I did want to. I forgot to make a mention of it when Ryan was saying that when we first worked with him on our respective shorts, you and me, Dave, that he hadn't done a lot in front of the camera. And then it was kind of cool, as I've known Ryan, to see him kind of progress, because it's like, not that I didn't think he was talented at the time, but just seeing how far he's come, like living in LA and doing the stuff he's doing now. It's just like, wow, man, like you really, if you really work hard, I mean, you just I mean, and he was just basically like, I'm going to do my craft. And that was it. And it was like, wow, you really got good. So
can I come out of left field here and ask a question that you might not be prepared for?
Go for it.
Why not?
Didn't one of you fight for me to get the role in something that the other one thought maybe I wasn't right for?
You are absolutely
Yes.
correct.
What-
and that would be
take the stage.
Who was that?
that would be Dave that fought for you, and I wanted to cast somebody else.
This was for 11. This is for 11. This was our
yes.
feature film back in Virginia, D.C. when we were still living out there. This is right after we had basically premiered 2 of our short films that, like Neil said, Ryan was in. And then we just had so much fun. Let's just keep the ball rolling. Let's now jump into making a feature film. So Neil was starting to write that. I was kind of helping with story. I was going to be the producer, Neil's director. And then our guy Pete, who did DP work, cinematography on our short films, was staying on to work with us on that feature. So yeah, by all means, Neil, you go for it.
Yeah, just no. That is a fair question, and I mean,
sorry to sidebar that, but that just kind of dawned on me.
No, it's like because I think that's actually very interesting that because you got a whole dynamic here of how do you stay friends with somebody who didn't think you were good enough for something, and you know what I mean, like that whole thing, and it could have gotten really if you and me, Ryan, had different temperaments, it could have gotten to a. I mean, but luckily it was it worked out. But long story short, I mean, I'll admit I was wrong, but I didn't think you were the right fit for this role. And it's funny in retrospect, I can't imagine anyone else being in that role. But at the time, I had my eye on somebody, and it was like, I don't even know how I knew the person. I saw them in a play that was recommended by somebody, and I just thought, oh man, this guy is great, and he can play a loner and this kind of weird, like druggy kind of guy, which was what the role was for 11. And but then it was like dealing with the guy. He wanted all this stuff. Like I think he wanted like a chauffeur or something. I'm like, dude, this is like a low budget movie. We can't do all this other stuff. It was just, it was just crazy. And then Dave just kept saying like, dude, just go. Like, I mean, Ryan was great for our shorts. Like, let's just do this. And then I was okay.
When this is over, because you'll have to remind me when this is over, when we're not on the mics, you'll have to remind me of the person who it was in case did I know the person?
You did, yeah.
Okay, I get it. I'd love for the.
Well, not exactly. You worked with the guy that was representing this guy that I wanted to cast in the role. He was like a de facto agent for this guy or something. I think he was just trying to like look out for the dude as far as like legalese and like don't sign a contract and that kind of thing. But you ended up working with him, Ryan, like in LA on stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Tell me afterwards.
Yeah, I could say. Yeah. I know it's a whole weird thing. Like, are we name dropping on the podcast, or what are we doing here?
No, you can't say that.
But so what actually ended up being, and I hate to admit it, was sort of like Dave, you're right. Let's just do it. I've worked with Ryan before. It's great. It'll be fine. And it started as that. But what I realized, I don't know, before we even probably started rolling cameras, was that, man, I am dead wrong. And like Ryan is so committed to this thing, and you like metamorphosized, or I don't even know if that's how you say it, but into like a whole new actor on that 11 set, where I was like, Jesus Christ, like you were so much, like you just transformed into this role, and it was just wild to watch. And I mean, I admit, I think at the time I was like, wow, I was absolutely wrong on Ryan.
Oh,
like, this guy's
buddy.
way killer than, and I mean, and now I can't even imagine the other dude. Like, I'm just like, screw that guy. No, I mean,
I think that's a good thing for actors to kind of, and I've been doing it for a little while now, so it's easier to embrace. But I think it's a good thing for actors to kind of keep with them, is that, if you think you're right for the part, and somebody else doesn't think you're right for the part, it really doesn't have anything to do with you. It doesn't say anything about you. You'll get it or you'll get it, or you won't.
Yeah.
And I probably thought like, yeah, I could do this. I want to do this. In fact, I'm assuming I didn't know that there was any conversation about it. I'm sure you kept that from me until we were friends.
I don't think we brought it up until after we were either way into shooting or like we were done. Smart
move. But there's certain things that are so out of an actor's control, and you guys can both speak to this as producers, as directors, as filmmakers, that you can be terrific and give a fantastic read and be talented to the moon and back, but if there's that one thing that is just not maybe what you're looking for, or you're looking for a different look to go with another actor in in the scene or in the story, or you might want somebody with red hair, or and I got blonde hair or something. Those things play effect. It has nothing to do with the actor often, I think.
That I'm glad you brought that up too, because I went I met somebody out here that is a casting agent for in Austin, and I was talking to her about all of this stuff and like her representing her clients, and she's telling them, look, it's not about your ability, it's about whatever the hell arbitrary thing the filmmaker's looking for. And then I was explaining this kind of situation that happened with this horror movie that Dave and me shot out here in Austin in the summer, where I was kind of, because I was casting a family, I had to keep ethnic backgrounds and things like that. And, it's like, I can't cast you if this person's this person, and everything had to like feed into each other. So although I had certain people of certain backgrounds that I really liked, it was sort of like a wait a minute, I got to wait to see what happens here. So and the whole point of this is the person that didn't get the role thinks it's about their ability, and it's like, no, it's just like, this is how it worked out, and it's like, sorry, you were the odd man out. I wish I could have cast you, or I really liked you, but so that's just an example of so many things that are outside of an actor's control, where it has nothing to do with your talent. You can be the most talented person, but you don't get the role because.
Well, I think even seasoned actors who know that, I'll take myself even as the example. I mean, I know that to be true. I can preach that. I can tell myself that. I can experience that. But then you'll be in a situation where, God, you really want this. Like, this one is the one you really want. And if you don't get it, the director can come to your house and cook you dinner and tell you it had nothing to do with your ability. It was just, I needed a different look. And you're like,
I mean, I get it. It's like, how can you not take that personally? I mean, I totally understand that. Yeah.
Sometimes, but that's just because like what we do, I think, is a vulnerable thing. You open yourself up to that type of thing. But, after some years, you kind of just learn to.
But it is good. It is good that you brought that up, because the girl that I was talking to, a friend of mine out here, she was saying that, like, she was like, I wish directors would come out and say that, or producers or whoever, that, look, it's not about you. It's about.
I imagine that could be difficult for you guys too on your side of the table, because you really like some of the people that come in the room and you know how bad they want it. But then if you don't go with them, there's probably that part of you that's you feel bad. It might be easier on your side of the table to kind of, where you go into certain rooms and they're really friendly, they're really welcoming, and I love those rooms. But sometimes there'll be a distance between you and the person that who is in control, who's making the decisions here, and that really must be some kind of safety armor for them, being like, I have to make a hard decision. So the less I personally get involved with you, even if it's a brief exchange, the easier that's going to be for me to not say, oh God, I love this actor, but it's not going to be them today,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, I think that happens a lot. I mean, and you would probably know better than we do. I think I know a little bit about that, since I've been freelancing for a good 15 years at this point. And, I've done a lot of editing work, more than I could even imagine. How many projects I've done, whether it's bar mitzvahs, weddings, events, promos, corporate videos, this, that, or the other. And for a while, especially when we first got out here and things were such turmoil and I didn't know anybody, I had a couple jobs that I sort of kept for a few months, but the distance was just too much. So you go to Craigslist, or you go to, at the time it was Mandy, and I was hitting up people all day long. I mean, there were so many jobs out here, but at the same time, you throw a rock and you're going to hit an editor somewhere in LA, just like an actor. So I think you kind of build up that skin, you build up that thing of like, I could have done that editing job in my sleep, but you didn't even contact me, you didn't say anything. And now it's just the norm. I just don't even, we need a music video editor. Well, I've done a lot of music videos. I can edit that easily and never get a response or never hear. So I'm sure with that, like, you probably never hear why or a reason, and they don't have time to do that, really.
You really do. But I mean, I don't think I've ever wanted to know. I mean, I don't really care if it's not yes. because it's like, I just assume it's, somebody else's vision. No big deal. I mean, I think it's important to have like a good sense of self and like where you are with your craft and in the business. I mean, we shouldn't say the names again. It's just a whole like secretive element of the thing, but I think it's just, it's appropriate and professional. But there's been times where Dave has come to me and said, hey, what would you think about playing this in X? And I would read it and say, well, I don't think that's me. I don't think that I'm the best person for it, but what about so-and-so or so-and-so, where it's just like, I mean, sometimes you just kind of know, like, I could maybe I could pull it off, but if I think there's somebody better for it, then you should go for the person who's just better for it.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, I'm sure there's tons of relationships that directors, actors have had. I mean, look at Marty Scorsese and De Niro, and then later with DiCaprio. And I mean, there's a shorthand, there's an ease. We were roommates for the longest time. We were friends before that, and we can have that conversation. I guess there's other people like you've got other directors that you've worked with, like with Neil, with other people. And you kind of know that's the amount. Like, you can talk like that, but going into blind auditions or just reading for a part, you don't really have that camaraderie or oh yeah, I get what you're saying. I see that.
Yeah, I think I've been in my career been either fortunate or I definitely think it's fortunate, but I've been fortunate enough to work with a number of filmmakers more than once, so that it's kind of nice to have the shorthand creative talk when you're kind of moving, because things are moving, so it's like, now's not the time to, to dig deep on this. Well, you do that on your end and I'll do that on my end. But if we can have a shorthand and we can both get to the point quicker, then that's better for everybody.
Yeah. And speaking of which, and I was going to ask, this was going to be one of the questions I was going to ask earlier. Since you both had the opportunity to work on this project, SOCIOS and SOCIOS, but 10 years ago or whatever it was, 12 years ago, worked on 11. What is kind of, I guess, and then in all the projects in between, where would you kind of say you were, 2005 versus 2000? Would you guys shoot 2018 or 2019
17? It was December of 17.
Okay. It was practically SOCIOS. 2018. Yeah. But with all that time, I mean, can you kind of talk about kind of like the way it was versus the way it is now, and like how you both have changed and evolved and all these other things? Or is it just kind of like riding a bike? It's like, oh yeah, we know how to work with each other. It's like old hat.
Yes and no. And I would say yes and no, because, jumping into any project for me, I mean, like you said, Ryan and I have worked together with a bunch of different things. We did a couple trailers that for a feature film that I'm still writing and rewriting to this day. And, he did a couple things before that. We had worked a lot together, but everything's different. Everything changes. Character is this way or that way. Now, I do think we have a shorthand, and he trusts me and I trust him as far as what, he knows I know what I'm doing technically, and I trust him as an actor that he reads the part and we can talk about it. But come day of set, things change, things go crazy, low budget stuff. So, but I've never had any kind of like issues or problems or, nothing. I don't know. I think we work together just because we're also very similar in what we like and directors and films and things like that too. That helps.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, beyond that, I mean, being friends for so long, we've probably spent more hours in front of a TV screen or a movie screen watching movies and discovering things, or like, him saying, hey, check this out or check that out, that you kind of, that kind of translates, that moves over onto the set, as do all the years of working together. I mean, it's all packaged into one. Shorthand is the easy answer, or the short answer to this, where Yeah, I mean, listen, he's got a lot of things going on when we're working together, and I'm happy to be the least of his worries because
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I've known him long enough that it's not like I said, well, what were you thinking here? What's this part about? Or how does this script end? I've probably read it. I know enough about it. I know him. I know his styles. I know what he likes. And, you know, I think as an actor, sometimes I tend to not do much. And if I have to do something, I know that he'll just be like, well, hey, maybe you pick it up at this bit. No, okay, I can do that. But I just trust that he'll tell me if I need to know something, and I'll ask him if I need to ask something. And other than that, we can just deal with whatever we have to deal with on our own. And we can talk.
It's not just the shorthand. It's kind of like you guys have picked up the idiosyncrasies and kind of each other's personalities and like how the other one likes to work. So it's like that makes things easier too.
Yeah, because I think you could both probably say this, and I don't know if it's to my embarrassment or if it's you know, my natural progression of things, but I feel like as a young actor, I was a very I needed to ask a lot of questions and I needed to know a bunch of things that I don't think I need to get from the filmmaker anymore. You know, if it's not there, if the filmmaker hasn't given it to me and we're about to go, then I feel like it's my job to kind of fill that in. You know, like the filmmaker's given me everything that I need to know to get to this point. So now it's my job to fill it in. And I think as a young actor, I probably used to bother you guys with all these things that I thought were probably important. That that also goes to that shorthand thing where I feel like, Neil, you and I could just kind of jump back into it too, because I think the shorthand between, and I'm not comparing myself or us in these, but like the shorthand that, you know, Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese, or Philip Seymour Hoffman and Paul Thomas Anderson, or, you know, XYZ, fill in the blank, is less about knowing each other's working behavior and more about knowing each other to kind of read when you need something or when the other person. What do you think about this? You agree? Because I think that, Neil, you and I could jump right back into it because we know each other.
Oh, I definitely believe so. And I mean, and just go to the very basic level. I don't think when you're working with somebody for the first time, there's a little bit of a like, okay, how would you respond to this? Like, I think you and me, Ryan, would just be like, we know each other so long. It's like we could cuss up a storm and just like, fuck you, do this. I mean, we just go right into it, and it's nobody's going to get their feelings hurt. We just have that rapport. We just have that history. So that makes it so much easier because it's like, we're just going right into business. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. You know this, I know, you know this. And then we just do it. And
that's also important, where you can be a professional, but like, I don't have to worry. I don't have to dance around.
Exactly. It's like, and that's what I mean. Not like, you know, we would act on professional, but there's that, when you have that history with somebody and you just kind of know them, you don't have to kind of go like, okay, so if I tell you this, are you going to, no, you get it. Like, I already know you get it because we've done this before. You know what I mean? And that, yeah, I mean, so I totally, and it's funny that you mentioned Scorsese and De Niro, because I was going to say, it's not just because, I mean, if you're De Niro or DiCaprio and you're going to work with the best, like Scorsese, and Scorsese is going to work with the best, but you are right. I mean, they keep working together because it's like, they know each other. Hey, I know if I do this, you know, I mean, if you work with Clint Eastwood, you know, the guy's just like, I expect you to do it in one take. That's it. We're moving on.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. So
yeah, or Fincher, and you're going to do 70 takes.
And they
like Brad Pitt and Fincher, like, you know, they've worked together numerous times.
But it's funny, Ryan, when you mentioned like when you were younger and you were, because Dave and me were talking about this, and I think I don't know, just I guess it's the stylistic. I mean, it's not like one person's right, one person's wrong. I mean, it is what it is. But I think he prefers kind of people that just kind of do it. And not that I necessarily prefer that, but I don't mind when people ask me a lot of questions, even now, you know what I mean? Or they get really in the weeds with it, because I kind of think it's fun and stuff, you know? Like, I get into it too. And I'm like, yeah, let's dive into this shit and like really get into it.
But, you know, to pull the curtain back a little bit, I think that there's a time and place for that. And younger actors especially will probably fall into this. There's a time and a place for that. But what we're doing is we're working here, and it's a creative thing. It's our art. It's to be taken seriously. It's not to just be, shot from the hip. But all that work should be done before you arrive on somebody's set, where the clock is ticking and the things that are going are not seconds, they're dollars. And I think as a professional, if there is a question, if there is a situation that needs to be discussed in a moment, you do it. But if you've done your work on your own at home, you can have those conversations more efficiently so you can get to work and do your thing. Because you two as directors are not anybody's acting coach. You're not there to coach a performance out of somebody. You hire somebody to do what they do, so that, because you have a bunch of things that you worry about. Is the way I try to treat this thing. And if I need something from you, I know I'll be able to get it. But I think as a young actor, to pull the curtain back again, like I said, is that it probably made me feel more like an actor. Like, it made me feel more like the biographies I read about, these great actors I looked up to, that they were constantly digging and they were constantly wanting more. And I work with young actors that I think come right up to this line where they feel that that's their job.
You think like they feel that they need to talk to the director.
They feel like
every take or something, like, how is this, or should I do it this way or that way?
I mean, listen, some actors feel like if they don't, develop an ulcer creating their character, then they really didn't go deep enough. And for me, I think that's a little silly. I mean, I do believe if you do enough work, your imagination can take you as far as you need to go with it, and you will have true, genuine emotions if you connect in and put your attention on the other person. But if you're so worried about what me, and how I'm feeling and what happened to me and what I'm doing and how me, that's never going to come in a genuine way, because you're just looking in the mirror, you're navel gazing, instead of putting your attention on the other person, which is all you really need to do. I think as a young actor, I didn't know that. Like I needed or I thought I had to go through all this stuff. And that's another thing that must change between the dynamics between us, because you had to put up with that shit.
So I just wanted, so now you bring up a good point, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Cause I was talking about one thing and you're kind of talking about, I mean, so when I said, I don't mind doing the homework with an actor, like if we delve deep into this stuff and everything, I think what you're talking about, and I agree with, is when you're on set trying to figure out, we don't have, it's dollars. Like, we're wasting time, and everybody should be prepared. And as far as I'm concerned, if an actor is asking me what their motivation is or what they're supposed to do, then I've failed if they're not ready to do that on set. What I'm talking about is that kind of, the pre-production, the whole before.
Oh, if you're lucky to have that, then yeah, for sure.
Because I've worked with people like that are like that, and they just ask a shit ton of questions before, and I'm all about it. I'm like, yes. And then when we get on set, it's like, it's almost like I don't have to do anything. I'm like, yeah, we've already talked about it. You do your thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I just wanted to clarify that. That's what I meant. I love that kind of thing. And I don't mind going.
I like that too. If you have the luxury to be with each other beforehand, and
if you,
a table read with the cast, or even rehearse.
But that is very different than I think what you were implying with, like, I guess with the young actors,
it is.
where they just want to chat up the director's ear, and it's like, and because I agree, I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like, we should have done that before. I'm more than happy to talk to you about.
Have you dealt with that?
No, not really. No, I mean the kind of situation I was bringing up is that I had, I've dealt with kind of both sides. The people that they don't really just tell me where to go, hit my mark, and what I need to do, and if it's not working on camera, give me quick and dirty direction, which is something I'm not as good at, as a director, which I should be, because I'm very verbose. And I'm kind of I don't mind the people that are talky with me, like, oh yeah, let's dissect this and stuff. But it's two different styles. It's just a matter of, okay, how can I say this quickly? And then, you know what I mean? Like, there's the people that really want to get into the dirty work of it. And then there's people that are just like, I think I just get it if you give me a couple action words, and then I'll figure the rest out on my own.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think I can more only like I shouldn't blanket statement that for anybody. I think I should more or less say I'm talking from my point of view. You know, like because I can remember wanting all that from you guys. Like, what is my this, or let's figure this out. Let's figure that out. But it's probably something that just as you get older, or the longer you do it, you kind of figure out like, hey, this is my job. You know, and that person's got their job, and that person's got their job, and that person's got their job. And if we need each other, we know we can lean on each other. But otherwise,
right. But it's. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, I guess for you, it was like an age thing. Like you got older and you changed kind of how you look at it. But I could, I don't know, bring up somebody like Daniel Day-Lewis, who's just totally immersed in the role, and then you have somebody like Dustin Hoffman, who's just like, nah, man, you just flip the switch and that's it. Like I don't need to get in the method or whatever. I just do it, you know? And I mean, and they're old, so they just,
well,
and that's how
they've
always been.
Hoffman is actually more close to the Daniel Day-Lewis train of thought.
Is he though? Because I thought he would go on like talk shows and say, I don't understand the method acting thing because I can just do it. And then he would just start yelling at somebody and be like, see, I just did it. I just turned it on.
Well, he did say the yelling thing, which I think is a good point. But he is like the type of person that, you know, he's the one that famously like didn't sleep for 2 days during Marathon Man to feel like what it would feel like to lose sleep. But the thing about that is they did that again on their own time in preparation to get to set and be, you know, and be present and professional.
That is true.
So and I think this is a good, and it's an interesting point too, because there's not a ton of time, especially for indie filmmakers, especially for people with a budget that isn't, it's not Disney, it's not Marvel, and you know, we can just throw another 2-3 million at it and get you come back and do reshoots and all this other stuff. How important is it, or I guess with the here's the work and here's the homework that I've got to do? Because again, Ryan, I've known you and you read the biographies and you've seen different actors, and everybody's got a different method, and some people do it this way, some people do it that way. But I think what's interesting about this, especially for actors and for directors that are going in to shoot something, it's always have that game plan, have that character in mind, bring those questions up before the shooting happens. Things are going to change no matter what, but at the same time, if you've done the homework, if you've done the research and you've figured out this character, isn't that probably the most important aspect before going into shooting, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I know there's plenty. I don't remember where I heard this, but you know, there's certain actors that will show up on the day and they haven't read the whole thing and they don't know what's going on, and this is their part, and they've been hired for 2 days and they've probably been doing it for 30 years and they can just kind of knock it out, and they might not know their lines, so they get the sides right there the whole time. But then somebody was talking about working with Tom Hanks, and you'll never see Tom Hanks show up on set unprepared. You'll never see Tom Hanks show up on set without his lines. And, you know, it's an ugly truth that there's probably a reason why that's why Tom Hanks is where he is, and why those other actors who have careers but aren't necessarily Tom Hanks, that's why they are where they are. You know, I think I think it's a great responsibility to show. I mean, it's easy to show up without doing the work for the day on a film set. It's so easy. I mean, you might be shooting 3 pages at a time, and there's other people in the scene, so you might have like however many lines or something, and it's all shot out of order. So, oh, what are we doing today? Oh, okay, so what is this? Oh, okay, there you go. And there's so they even, you guys give us these little hideable printed pages of the script. I mean, you give us every reason in the world to not show up ready to knock it out. But I think those that show up ready to knock it out, you just reach a different level with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's about the craft, and not
you might be doing, there's certain jobs you might care for more than the others, I imagine. you know, I kind of think of like, do you think anybody has ever been at like a party, or anybody was ever at a party back in the day where Jimi Hendrix picked up a guitar and it kind of sucked? Like they were like, oh man, I wish he'd just put that down so we could continue talking or playing Scrabble. No, I mean, because like when he picks up his guitar to do something, he realizes that's a representation of like what he does. And I feel like if you're an actor, if you're going to show up to act, you better always show up to bring it, because that's supposed to be what you do, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that's what I think when you're saying, like, as directors, as Neil and I now have done most of the career, not a lot of big stuff at all. It's a lot of independent stuff. It's a lot of independent stuff we've made or we've written, directed. We're still producing. We're going to be the editors on all this stuff. And I do notice that there's a funny thing with directors these days where, you know, they are very, like, I think Sofia Coppola is one of those, like, I only want to talk to my actors, and I'll talk to the DP here and there, and we'll make a game plan, but it's that's on them. And then there's the technical directors, the camera here, and here's how we're going to move the angle, and let's get the lighting set up. And I don't know. I've always tried to find a good balance of, yes, of course, I want to talk to the actors, and I want to make sure everybody's prepared. And I'm trying to also do shot lists. I'm trying to make sure the DP knows this is the kind of setup and lighting I want to do. These are the ways I want to move the camera, this or that. I always try to find a balance with that. But I do think that there are a ton of directors out there that are basically one or the other. I'm either an actor's director or I am a technical director.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you've seen that.
I think even more so now than probably ever, and it's been going on for a while now, but because I mean, when we came in, we could all get some cameras, we could get some equipment, and we were like one of the first groups to say, oh, you can make this on your own. Now the camera on the new iPhone is better than maybe the camera we made our first film on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's now there's no excuse to not be. Now you can't. Everybody's a multi-hyphenate. Everybody's a writer. Everybody's a director. Everybody's a creator. You shoot your stuff. You edit your stuff. Now there's no excuse for, you can't no longer say that the things that you put out is like, oh, well, he made this on his own. Imagine if we put him in this situation. Think of what they can make. Your stuff has to look like it's coming out of, you know, the studios right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot of comments. Yeah,
well, it's also the thing that I've kind of learned over the, I guess even the last 3, 4, 5 years, short films, and I told Neil about this too, and we've had numerous conversations about filmmakers and short films and this and that, and you know, now it's like your feature film is your short film. That used to be the 90s or the early 2000s, where you could get a commercial job. No, I'm a fan of it too, no matter what.
No, man, I love them.
No, I'm not saying like as an exercise, but you know, as a filmmaker, for me, once I've done 2 or 3 short films, there's really no reason for me to go back to that. I'm not saying I would never do it, or in this time. I think one of the directors for like a horror film just did like a 3-minute thing, and it was great. I haven't watched it yet. I'm saying for the craft, for learning it, by all means, of course, go into a short film. But there's something about after that's done, and we all know directors that kind of like to stay in that lane and don't really want to branch out. But I think the industry does not care about short films anymore. There's nothing about them unless you're doing them at a high level, high budget.
Well, they don't care about them because they don't make any money.
Well, no, it's not even just like, it's not about the money. It's just, we don't want to put you in a position of, now we don't still trust a film where we used to trust filmmakers that made short films in the early 90s or early 2000s to go and make a feature, and it's a $500,000 budget. Now it's like, no, we need to see that you've done a feature film.
Yeah, makes sense. It's tough for you.
Well,
it's tough for everybody.
Yeah.
Now,
well, I meant you speaking of you two from your seat at the table. It's, you know.
Oh, it's a lose-lose proposition for David and myself. But now Ryan, I did promise you that we'd go X amount of time, and I know we're in a quarantine and everything, but we got family obligations, and I heard something about shrimp tacos and everything. So let me ask you one last question, and then we'll wrap it up. I'm curious to know from an actor's perspective, big budget, little budget, don't matter. What would you say is like one thing that you wish a lot of directors and producers, what's something they should know that would make everybody's life easier, as far as just whether it's communication or just, I mean, it could be something that, like craft services. I don't know, just something that's just like, oh man, why don't they know this? Everybody should know this.
Oh,
you just,
I don't know. Oh boy, you put me on the spot there. I don't know.
Don't worry.
I feel like you would say they need to know the actor's perspective. Actually, let me answer for Ryan a little bit, because I do think that actors say, if you're a director and you've never been in an acting class, you probably should go into one.
That is true. I mean, the best experiences I've had are obviously from either actors, directors like yourselves, or directors who were actors. But I get, that's exactly what I would say.
What Dave said, I actually took that right on the nose, and I did that. I took acting classes to understand, even though I'm not an actor, to understand what an actor goes through.
Yeah, and I think
no, you are an actor, sir. You are in Trip. You are acting in Trip. I directed you as an actor, so you kind of are.
I mean,
that's exactly it, because I applaud you for that. I know other directors that have done that, because there needs to be a shorthand to talk to that person too. And I have worked with people who aren't that, and it can be a little bit paint by numbers, or where you want to pull your hair out. But then again, I don't know that I say it. I think the ones that know, and the ones that don't, well, maybe they will. It's not my place, because I'm a hired gun there. But that's probably a good one, Dave. You guys know me.
That's the thing. Well, it's like we talked about it on a previous thing where about, and we were talking about it in this one, like where filmmakers wear all the multi hats and everything, and you can't just go out and make a movie because I direct. Well, you got to be an editor and a writer and an actor, and you got to be all of it now. It's like, that's pretty much, if you're a low budget indie movie maker, you got to be doing everything. And in fact, and we didn't even get into this. This is a whole other thing, but I mean, Ryan, you were an actor that started writing to put yourself in your own stuff, and then you started getting on directing and things like that while you were in LA. And that's the kind of thing. It's like, you got to take your own,
but I think right now that's kind of the norm, as it should be. I mean, you can't wait for your phone to ring or somebody to knock on your door. So, and also I think I never only wanted to do one thing. But it, it's anything to keep the creative juices flowing, but it also gives you perspective on what other people are doing when you're on a set. The more I think you involve yourself in the other positions of work, you can appreciate more of what the other people are bringing to it. So it's not all about, because
we've definitely talked a couple different times, and I know you've been writing with a mutual friend of ours, and you've had other ideas and things like that, and you're writing, and you're like, wow, I now see what you and Neil and other people like deal with writing.
It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing I've done.
Yeah.
In terms of,
and Neil, you're the same way. When you were like going into Trip and you wrote yourself one of the scenes, and I don't, acting. Oof.
It's
writing.
It's a different thing.
I mean, and it's the day that I had to do the cameo in Trip was, to me, actually the hardest day, because I was like a fish out of water. I was like, oh my God. And I had the lines absolutely nailed down, memorized and everything. And then it was just like lights, camera, action. And I was like, oh shit. And then I'd flub a line, and it just threw me off my game. And I mean, luckily I had a lot of talented people to help me get through it. But I'm telling you, I mean, people think it's easy. Acting is not easy. I mean, you have to be.
Do people think it's easy?
Some people do. Some people think you can be a reality TV star and this and that and everything. Oh yeah, just get in front of camera. Some people think singing is easy, and they sing like a wounded cat.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, I haven't.
But no, when you jump in now that, like you said, like everybody's doing the multi-hyphenates and we have to do this or that. I don't think I did it. Editing. Now everybody is on YouTube and they're starting to edit and they're doing vlogs and they're learning all these things. I'm like, yeah, but it's taken me years to know kind of intuitively editing styles or ways to do things. And people like 14, 15, 12-year-olds are doing it. It's crazy. Like what they're learning by YouTube and TikToks and this, that, and the other. And that's a whole nother realm that we can go into at some point. But yeah, I think, like you said, well, it's strange jumping into the other shoes or the other positions if you haven't done it.
Absolutely. But it's very essential to get that perspective. And I mean, like you said, like if you should know editing, you should know camera, even if that's not going to be your forte or your thing, you should know enough about it. So
you got to know the medium that you're creating.
I mean, if you're a director, how are you going to communicate with an actor if you have no concept of what they're doing?
Well, if you're an actor, you need to know. If you're an actor, you need to know your lenses. You need to know your angles. You need to know your lighting. You need to know how. You have to have some sort of an idea when you're reading the scene you're doing. I mean, any actor worth their salt can kind of figure out the cut.
It's interesting you say that too, because it's like, and everybody that knows stuff, like we had a sound guy on set, and he would hear our DP call out what lens they were switching to the AC, the assistant camera, and then our sound guy would then communicate to the boom op like, oh, okay, we're gonna be close on the shot.
Of course, because he needs to know where to.
He needs to know where to put the mics and everything, and then when he hears the lens, he's like, oh, I know this is going to be a close up, so we have more. Or he's like, I heard that lens. Now it's going to be a wide shot. We got to do this. So I just thought that was cool because it's like he doesn't even need to talk to the DP to know, okay, this is where I need to put the boom. It was just wild. And then as an actor, like, here's my close up. They're calling that lens, So
you got to know your coverage and you should basically know a cut of the scene.
But I'll tell you, Ryan, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for doing.
Thank you both for having me on.
Yeah, it's been great. We'll have to have you on again.